Works of Attar. In its apparent meaning, Mantiq al-Tayr, the conference of the birds, has been interpreted as understanding the speech and sounds of birds. Several stories recount Solomon's conversations with birds, and Sheikh Attar seems to intend the same meaning when he describes Solomon's ring. He writes, "From that ring, not from others, the secrets of ants and the speech of birds are revealed." A similar expression of Attar is found in the term language of the birds, zaban-e-morg, in the following verse. "The bird's time is in your city. Its melody and light are for you." Attar sometimes uses the phrase to indicate eloquent or mystical speech, as seen in his reference to Solomon in Mantiq al-Tayr. He writes, "Solomon's speech in Mantiq al-Tayr is as eloquent as this person's words," said Ibn Abul Khair. In another instance he writes, "O Saba, your journey is delightful, the kingdom of Mantiq al-Tayr flies high. With Solomon, your speech is delightful." Similarly, Kagani also uses Mantiq al-Tayr in his poetry to describe eloquence. Hear Kagani's Mantiq al-Tayr, "For no one else can build meanings as he does." In naming Mantiq al-Tayr, Sheikh Attar seems to emphasize the idea of language as the potential and manifestation of the rank and status of each individual seeking the truth. This becomes clear towards the end of the poem when Attar unveils the secret. "I raised the language of birds among the lovers. Birds reveal all. I have explained, understand if you will, O ignorant one. They fly from the cage before death." Likewise, in his Masnavi, Jalal al-Din Rumi interprets Mantiq al-Tayr as understanding the capacity, readiness, and level of speech. Rumi explains, "The speech of patience is like Solomon's Mantiq, for every bird has been given a voice by God." The primary aim of Mantiq al-Tayr is the spiritual ascent of the seeker toward annihilation in the truth, represented by the bird's journey to Simorg. Attar uses the allegory of the birds gathering to choose a king and the Hoopoe, suggesting Simorg as their sovereign. The birds, each making excuses, are guided by the Hoopoe, who plays a crucial role in answering their objections and convincing them to follow the path. This role of the Hoopoe highlights the importance of guidance in the spiritual journey, as it helps the seeker overcome their doubts and fears. The surviving birds finally reach Simorg, realizing that the seeker, the birds, and the sought, Simorg, are one, symbolizing the ultimate union of the soul with the divine. This profound realization in the Masnavi aims to illustrate the stages of the spiritual path and the seeker's gradual dissolution into the divine essence, evoking a sense of awe and reverence in the audience. Compared to his other work, Mosibat-Nama, which also discusses the spiritual journey, Mantiq al-Tayr focuses more on the obstacles and perils of the path, which Attar masterfully diagnoses and remedies. While both works explore the stages of spiritual progress, the endpoint of Mosibat-Nama is the seeker realizing everything within themselves, hinting at a state of baka, or eternal existence. In contrast, in Mantiq al-Tayr, the bird's journey ends in fana, or annihilation, in Simorg. This concept of fana signifies the complete dissolution of the seeker's ego and individuality into the divine, symbolizing the ultimate goal of the spiritual journey. Another notable difference between the two Masnavis is the journey's stages, or valleys. Mosibat-Nama has 5 valleys: sense, imagination, intellect, heart, and soul. In contrast, In Mantiq al-Tayr, the journey consists of 7 valleys: seeking love knowledge, detachment unity, bewilderment, poverty annihilation. Each valley represents a stage in the spiritual journey, with the last valley, annihilation, symbolizing the ultimate union with the divine. This difference further illustrates the deeper spiritual goal in Mantiq al-Tayr, which surpasses that of Mosibat-Nama. The Conference of the Birds, Mantiq al-Tayr. It is observed that some birds have broken free from their cages and fly in the open sky. The captured bird, filled with a longing for freedom, asks them to guide it to the world of liberation. It pleads persistently until they teach it the way of salvation, and then they begin their courageous journey together. They pass through the strait of Mount Allah and the Eagle Mountain, Alamut, traverse a green and lush valley, and finally reach the summit of a mountain. There they see 8 towering mountains ahead. They cross 6 of these mountains, and on the 7th, they rest for a while. However, after some contemplation, they abandon the idea of staying and set out for the 8th mountain. There, they see beautiful birds and become acquainted with them. The birds inform them that beyond this mountain lies a city where the great king resides. The birds hurry toward the town, meet the great king, and ask him to free them from worldly attachments. The great king replies, "Only the one who bound these attachments can unbind them. I will send someone to help you." The birds then return and continue their journey to meet the one who will release them from their bonds. This allegory refers to the attachment of the soul to the body. Sheikh Abu Ali Sina, Avicenna, uses the metaphor of a pigeon in his poem The Ode of the Dove, in which he speaks of birds symbolizing sages who free their souls from the cage of the body through wisdom. The 8 mountains represent the celestial spheres. The beautiful birds are the immaterial souls, while the great king is the intellect, the ultimate destination for philosophers and wise men. The ultimate goal of this group is union with the great intellect, a journey that signifies profound spiritual growth and enlightenment. And these interpretations are drawn from the commentary of Umar ibn Sa'd. As you can see, the similarity between this allegory and Mantiq al-Tayr, the Conference of the Birds, lies in the bird's journey toward the palace and the king. However, there is a crucial difference. In Mantiq al-Tayr, the birds are accessible from the start and consult one another in choosing a king, while in Avicenna's tale, the birds are still captive, unaware of the existence of a king, and embark on a journey. In Avicenna's version, there are 8 stages, while in Mantiq al-Tayr, there are 7 valleys, and how the birds reach their destination also differs. In Avicenna's narrative, all the birds reach their destination because the path of reason and logic is straightforward and safe. But in Mantiq al-Tayr, only 30 birds survive out of the hundreds of thousands and unite with the simorgh, a mystical bird. This is because the path of love is arduous and dangerous, and it is the birds' unwavering perseverance that allows them to overcome these challenges. The difference in ambition between these 2 groups of birds is also evident. Avicenna's birds request freedom from their traps, but the great king sends them elsewhere, and they return without being fully liberated. In contrast, Attar's birds become one with the simorgh. Thus, Attar's ultimate goal is loftier. The comparison here is focused on the core elements of the story, and not the poetic style or the inclusion of anecdotes, which Attar has filled with tales of life's mysteries and the subtle secrets of spiritual journey. Attar vividly describes the dangers and obstacles travelers face on the spiritual path, much more thoroughly and eloquently than Ghazali. Attar's birds set out toward the home of the mythical Anka, or simorgh, but most perish along the way. Cold winds defeat some, others by scorching heat. Some succumb to the fierce storms. In the end, only a small group makes it to the island of Anka, seeking someone to announce their arrival to the king of birds. However, upon reaching him, they are filled with shame and despair and become immersed in the ocean of bewilderment. But grace descends upon them, and a voice of mercy whispers in their ears, "No one has ever been turned away from this court nor sent back with a broken heart." Attar provides a detailed explanation of the reasons behind the death of each group of birds. His description of the birds reaching the presence of the Simorgh mirrors Ghazali's narrative so closely that there can be no doubt that Attar had read Ghazali's tale when composing Mantiq al-Tayr. O Attar, you have revealed to the world the secrets of 100,000 every moment. Just as the sun sets, so did your work end, the language of the birds and the stations of the birds. The language of the birds describes the assembly of birds, where they gather and praise each flower and tree, preferring one over another. These birds are the dove, the nightingale, the turtle dove, the thrush, the parrot, the hoopoe, and the peacock. These 8 birds go to the Simorgh, the king of the birds, for a season of conflict. The gatekeepers and attendants need to open the way for them. The dove cries out and is reprimanded by the gatekeeper. The herald informs the Simorgh of their plight, and he grants them entry. The turtle dove recounts the tale of the birds and their differences. The Simorgh prefers the red rose, which is the essence of the chosen one, over all other flowers. Every scholar knows of you, everyone has given a sign of you, but I see no sign of you in the world. Who is the sign that you, O knower of secrets, are? Regarding the unity of existence and the manifested, the throne and the world are just illusions. He is, therefore, everything is just a name. Look, this world and the other world are He. Everything is one essence, but described differently. There is nothing other than Him. If there is, it is He. The sorrowful ones want to abandon prejudice and vain desire. The Hoopoe speaks. Each bird is described in this book in a specific way, and each says something appropriate to their state. In truth, they are examples of separate paths. This method is similar to what we see in the treatises of the Brethren of Purity. The Hoopoe describes himself with attributes from religious stories, especially the story of the Queen of Sheba. Perhaps he becomes the guide and leader in the language of the birds due to this embassy. The Hoopoe says the king knows himself, but cannot go alone. If the birds accompany him, they will traverse the path and become privy to that realm. The condition for reaching is annihilation and sacrifice. The birds gather and begin consultation about their journey, the Hoopoe's speech. Each bird is described in this book in a specific way, saying something appropriate to their state. The nightingale, for example, is portrayed as being deeply absorbed in the love of the rose, and the parrot, who seeks eternal life and is searching for the water of life. If we consider the water of life as knowledge, the parrot represents those who are content with knowledge and do not seek beyond. The Hoopoe answers that life is for sacrifice on the path of the beloved, reinforcing the idea that knowledge alone is not sufficient. It may be interpreted that the purpose of knowledge is for the knower to connect with the known. The peacock. As mentioned in religious narratives, the peacock was initially in paradise but was cast out due to aiding Satan in misleading Adam and Eve. Attar uses the peacock to symbolize those who worship and hope to attain paradise but are veiled from seeing the presence. The peacock says, "Paradise is enough for me. I do not need the Simorgh. I will stay at the gate and do not seek the presence." The Hoopoe responds that paradise is the abode of the self, and the heart finds its place in the truth and divine pleasure. If this is the case, then the abode of God is a better home. The bat. The bat represents those who are meticulous about purification and spend their lives cleaning the exterior. The bat says, "I am a devout bird and cannot be separated from water, nor can I bear to be apart from it." The partridge represents those who are obsessed with gems and wealth. Attar describes the partridge as one sitting on a stone with a heart locked in stone. The Hoopoe responds that the partridge's feet and beak are drenched in the liver's blood, and the partridge is missing the true gem. The gem of the partridge is a colorful stone, not worthy of proper attachment. When Solomon possessed the jewel by his command, the whole earth was under its influence. Though his reach was 40 leagues, the wind carried it at his command. Although the span was 40 leagues, the jewel was only half a stone. The excuse of the mythical bird, Hoopoe, is for those enamored with influence and authority in society, seeking to gain it through asceticism and seclusion. Hoopoe claims that through enduring hardships and offering bones to the dog of desires, it has earned a glorious shadow and does not need the simorg, as the symbol of kingship is sufficient for it. The Hoopoe responds that if your shadow grants kingship, it is not enduring kingship. Reflect on your condition and consider your ruin. The excuse of the hawk is for those who seek proximity to the sultan, enduring hardships to gain a morsel or a favor. The hawk claims to have learned the etiquette of service and is aware of the customs of servitude, sitting at the sultan's hand and receiving his favors. The Hoopoe responds that being attached to earthly kings is akin to associating with fire, and provides a tale of a king who always put a target on a servant's head to shoot at, showing that actual attachment to the simorg cannot be compared to earthly kings. The excuse of the butimar is for those caught in sorrow or the vicissitudes of states, focusing on the changing conditions of the soul. The butimar speaks of its love for the sea, symbolizing those obsessed with spiritual states and fluctuating experiences. The Hoopoe replies that the sea is ever-changing and cannot be the goal of true contentment. The eternal state is sought. The excuse of the Kuf is for those who seek treasures in the ruins of seclusion and focus solely on material wealth. The Hoopoe responds that love for wealth is akin to disbelief, and those who desire gold will find themselves as mere mice among the rich. Pursuing gold and material wealth is a misdirection from the proper path. The excuse of the Sa'u represents those who use their weakness to avoid seeking the truth and claim inability to undertake the journey. The Hoopoe counters that this is mere pretense. One must step onto the path regardless of fear. If all the birds are making the journey, then even a tiny bird should also venture forth, with faith that only God should be the focus, forgetting worldly desires. The birds question how they, weak and lacking wings, can reach the exalted simorg. They are told that the relationship is like the shadow of a king. It is through the shadow that one may understand the king's essence. The Hoopoe explains the difference between absorption and incarnation, suggesting that absorption involves negating creation and affirming the divine nature, while incarnation is the opposite. The birds agree to follow the Hoopoe and embark on their journey, realizing the challenges ahead. They fear the empty road and the daunting task of reaching the simorg. The Hoopoe explains that the emptiness of the path is a sign of simorg's majesty. Not everyone is allowed access to such a realm. The fear of the birds regarding the endless journey leads them to seek guidance from the Hoopoe, who has served Solomon and knows the etiquette and dangers of the path. The Hoopoe must address their concerns and assure them of the path ahead. The tale of Sheikh Sanan is a profound and delicate story, illustrating the transformative power of love. It depicts the Sheikh's abandonment of fame, faith, and even religion for the love of a Christian girl, showing the depth of true devotion and the trials of the journey. The story teaches that true devotion requires sacrifice and should not be judged by outward appearances. The birds set out for the simorg, understanding that the path requires a guide. They choose the Hoopoe as their leader through casting lots. As they begin their journey, they face the daunting reality of the road and the challenges that come with it. recognizing that such a noble quest is fraught with trials. Hoopoe's teaching about love and sacrifice emphasizes that true lovers must transcend material concerns and personal desires. The path requires enduring pain and remaining steadfast in pursuing the beloved, highlighting that true love involves joy and suffering. After describing the assembly and the state of the birds, Sheikh Attar explains the difficulties of the spiritual journey through the birds' dialogue. The birds, in their quest for the simurgh, represent the individual's journey towards spiritual enlightenment. A bird questions why some have precedence and closeness to the truth. This question reflects the deniers of the prophets who asked, "Is he just a human like us?" The Hoopoe replies that achieving one's goal and reaching the truth is not merely through obedience and worship. Instead, it depends on divine grace, though obedience might attract that grace. The story of Sultan Mahmud and the fisherman's child illustrates this. Attar emphasizes that without a guide, the journey is impossible. Another bird, grappling with the arduous path and doubts about reaching the goal, attributes its weakness to the fear of failure. The Hoopoe, a symbol of spiritual wisdom, reassures that such doubts are akin to worldly concerns, and the primary task is to persist despite these challenges. The story of Shibli's visit to a eunuch and the dispute among Sufis brought before a judge is included to illustrate that difficulties in the path stem from preoccupation with worldly matters. The Sheikh's advice in this regard is a beacon of encouragement and resilience. A bird, burdened by its sins, contemplates abandoning the quest. The Hoopoe, a symbol of divine guidance, explains that divine mercy transcends sin and reward. The story of a sinner who repented and was eventually shown mercy serves as a powerful illustration. The Hoopoe underscores that divine forgiveness extends even to those who have sinned greatly, offering a sense of hope and reassurance to the audience. God says, "I have forgiven and accepted your repentance. You were not rejected despite your earlier transgressions. Return, for I have opened the door to you again." A bird complains about its state's variability and fears about not achieving its goal. The Hoopoe replies that faithful men of the path are rare, and a heart devoted to worship will gradually achieve perfection. The story of Shibli and the story of the Sufi who had disputes but sought resolution from a judge are included. The Sheikh's explanation of perseverance and the danger of self-importance and ego is valuable. Another bird complains about the tricks of the self and its deception. The Hoopoe provides a detailed explanation of these deceptions and suggests subduing the self. However, the reason is incomplete as it doesn't fully elaborate on how to subdue the self. The tale of two clever foxes is included to illustrate this point. A bird seeks guidance on overcoming the tricks of Satan. The Hoopoe explains that Satan's tricks are rooted in worldly desires and that renouncing the world can lead to liberation from Satan's influence. However, this answer is also incomplete as it doesn't address how to deal with temptations if one still has worldly desires. The Sheikh discusses the condemnation of worldly attachment and provides relevant stories. A bird complains about the desire for wealth and how its happiness is tied to acquiring riches. The Hoopoe criticizes this attachment to wealth and recites verses condemning it. A bird finds the attachment to a dwelling or home difficult and views it as an obstacle in the journey. The Hoopoe advises that such attachments are insignificant. The tale of a king who built a golden palace and the discussion with a sage is included. The metaphor of the world as a spider's web illustrates the transient nature of worldly attachments. A bird describes its love and finds it hard to abandon. The Hoopoe distinguishes between transient sensory love and steadfast, enduring love. It explains that sensory love is fleeting while true love pertains to eternal and spiritual matters. The critique of superficial love is insightful. A bird discusses death and expresses fear. The Hoopoe explains that death is inevitable and beyond one's control, so fear is useless. Stories of Jesus and Socrates are used to illustrate this point. A bird laments over misfortune and sadness. The Hoopoe responds that worldly sorrow is fleeting and insignificant. The Sheikh discusses the wisdom of trials and suffering, asserting that what appears as hardship can be a hidden treasure. A bird inquires about obedience and the significance of adhering to commands. The Hoopoe explains that faithful obedience involves more than mere ritualistic practice, and that the true essence of obedience is found in humility and respect towards God. The stories of a king and prisoners in Abul Hasan Karakani are included to illustrate these points. A bird asks about purity and devotion and how to dedicate oneself to God. The Hoopoe advises that true purity is dedicating everything to God and not being concerned with worldly matters. The tale of a man's devotion and various ascetic stories are examples. A bird complains about its weakness in worship and questions the impact of striving for higher goals. The Hoopoe explains that high aspiration is crucial and describes it as a magnetic force that attracts divine love. The story of Joseph and Abayar and the tale of Sheikh Guri with Sanjar illustrate the effects of high aspiration. A bird inquires about the effects of fairness and fidelity. The Hoopoe explains that fairness is crucial and is even more valuable than years of worship. True fairness should be hidden to avoid hypocrisy. Stories of Ahmad Hanbal, Bishr al-Hafi, Mahmud, and the King of the Hindus are included to illustrate this. A bird asks about boldness in the presence of the divine. The Hoopoe explains that boldness is appropriate for intimate friends of the divine, but can be misunderstood by others. The Sheikh critiques those who make bold claims about divine experiences and explains that true lovers are beyond conventional norms. A bird claims to have experienced everything and is ready to attain the ultimate union with the divine. The Hoopoe responds that such claims are often boastful.